One. Okay, we are here back again on the Pat Flynn Show with legendary strength coach, according to Men's Health Magazine, Dan John, and special, not really special guest because we chat with him every week, Jim Added, but special guest for this segment, Dr. Jim's back with us. So, gentlemen, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Honor.
So Dan, it's been about a week since we spoke. What's new on your front? What's going on?
Little Leo is still fighting the good fight. His color is coming around. It's my grandson, folks, born premature. My daughter and I walk every day now. It's been quite nice.
That's nice.
Just trying to, so with the C-section, things don't happen as normal, so there's some things that we're working on, and my lifting's going well. I called my old coach yesterday, Dick Notmeyer, who's going to be 90 pretty soon, and God bless him, he's so fired up. I'm lifting in a meet again, and I sent him a picture I found on Strength and Health magazine, but it's funny, he's going to be 90 and he still lift weights. He's still, every other day he's lifting weights, still taking his vitamins, still taking his supplements, and I think he's been a great role model since the day I met him in, August, September in 1975, just still a great role model. So gentle listener, it's something to think about. If you want to be lifting at 90, you probably want to lift at 89.
Exactly.
That's good.
That's true. That's true fact.
Incredibly good advice, Dan.
Yeah,
it's the virtue of being true. Yeah.
So how's your training been then? So remind me again of when the meet is.
May 15th. Good. It's weird because I'm doing that easy strength protocol, so it's like weird. I'm gonna use pounds, folks, just so I can. But just a couple of weeks ago, I was doing 5 sets of 2 with 65 pounds or 85 pounds, and now on my easy day, it's 5 sets of 2 with 110 pounds in the snatch, and that's the easy day. That's just the day I practice, and I'm in the mid hundreds and sneaking up on 2, and it's just fun to actually watch a program work. Moreover, and I've sent it to you before, this easy strength. What is it called? Easy strength for fat loss with Olympic lifting might be the. I'm sorry. I've lost 10% of my body mass since January 1st.
Excellent.
I was 250 and I'm 225 again today. And I'm going to try to get down to 220. I talked to Dick about it, and he thought that 220 is a great number for me. Uh-huh. And what I'm doing is, on the nutrition side, as I said, I backed off alcohol almost completely. Though it's not a religious thing. It's just that's my X. That's the thing I have to stop doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vegetables at every meal, and then I do the mobility work. I do the complex to warm up. I snatch, I clean and jerk. I do a suitcase or waiter walk, and then I go for a half an hour walk. And I got to tell you, if someone had told me it was that easy, I would have never believed them. But you can't argue with the scale, so to speak.
This is a side point, but it's something I've always appreciated about your programs, Dan, is you don't try to come up with dumb names like I do. Like your program just describes exactly what it is. Easy strength for fat loss. Easy strength for fat loss with Olympic lifting. There's something I really appreciate that. It's just very direct and to the point. It's
kind
just
of like my 3-week peak. How long does it last, Coach?
3 weeks. What does it do? It peaks.
Yeah. So how did I lose everybody?
So Jim, you heard our conversation last week, and I know you said a few points stuck out to you that you wanted to build upon. So I'd be curious. What those are.
The alcohol thing really resonated with me, and I might even have mentioned this on the podcast before. But about the time I turned 40, in my early 40s, alcohol went really sideways for me. Not like getting bailed out of jail sideways, but I think it could have, right? Yeah. I found it like just a couple beers, and even 2 days later, my mood was not right. Huh. And the sleep thing too. I noticed I could never, if I stayed up late and there's any alcohol involved, I was going to wake up at like 5 a.m. I was not going back to sleep. And that could have a lot to do with the mood stuff too.
Right.
And there's not in my immediate family, but in my extended family, there's not the best history with that drug. Right. And when you start seeing kind of anxiety, self-loathing stuff associated with it. And then, I mean, that seems to be how you start the cycle.
Right.
And so it was in my early 40s. I just said, I'm just, I'm done with this. I'm not drinking.
Right.
Yeah. And, and now, man, it's probably been 2 years since I've had a drink at all. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'm not against alcohol. I mean, I had a
Important
long and lovely relationship with it in my youth. Right. But I realize now and I think this is an important point. Your life is not always the same, right? And things come in stages and phases, and things have seasons. And for me, the season for alcohol definitely ended. And I tell you, yeah, it's over. And immediately, though, I saw a big change in body composition. Mm-hmm. Big change in body composition, right? And so I could see it was in my early 40s. It was not doing much good for my testosterone levels, I suspect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'm probably somewhere right between you guys, maybe even closer to you, Jim, where I know if I have a few beers, it's going to be a 2-day recovery period in terms of mood and energy and just joints too. Like my elbow, like all the old injuries that I have, they all just flare up with alcohol consumption. Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And I just want to jump in, Jim and Pat, and don't, as a gentle listener, in no way, in any way, am I condemning the use of, I mean, obviously there's issues with alcohol. Hey, guess what? There's issues with coal. Anybody who thought the earth was a free lunch missed Genesis. But what I think what we're talking about is, and it's interesting to hear the sleep thing, because I've changed my nighttime supplement to help me sleep better. But I do find this conversation important, but for me, it's the body composition. I mean, it's just
right. Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, it's pretty easy to wash down a lot of extra calories. And I'm not always sure calories in, calorie out is exactly true. Yeah. Like it's not the bathtub model of bad economic theory, this in, out, but alcohol
to the extent that it's true, I find that it's almost trivially true, right? You need to add just so many different qualifications to it that it's like, in what sense is just repeating that slogan actually helping people? That's my primary criticism with it, right?
Yeah. 3,500 calories of table sugar is going to have a different impact on you than 3,500 calories of Kerrygold butter.
Right, right, and we just know certain foods. Right, everybody knows that certain foods are hyper palatable. It's easier to eat 3,500 calories of potato chips than it is broccoli, for example. Right.
Yeah, good luck on the broccoli celery decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn it, Danny! You're wrong, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I want to get fat on cauliflower. Call me on that because I want to be there.
I remember when, I don't know if he still does or not, Jim Wendler had a forum for a while where he would answer questions and occasionally would lose his temper in a great way, right? And I remember he got asked for like the 95th time, is it okay if I put fruit back in my diet? And, Wendler's not a diet guy. He's about getting like freaky strong, right? and he just finally said, look, dude, peaches didn't make you fat.
It was carrots last week. Right? Carrots are the issue.
No one has ever said, man, it all went wrong with the fresh peaches, man. That was the bad decision of my whole life.
That's when I went south. Yeah.
No one's been sitting in San Quentin prison saying, it just went wrong with the peaches.
It was Georgia peaches. Yeah.
Damn peaches, man. Right?
It's funny because it's not that far off from the truth. I mean, you see it on Instagram all the time of like, there'll be a meme going around of like, stuff that's high in sugar, like that's a bad thing, and then there'll be carrots on there. And every time I see something like that, I'm like, that's where it went wrong.
Yeah, really. Yeah, carrots.
Right?
My vet, I have a vet who says, give your dog carrots. And the other one time, this is years ago, said, well, carrots are high in sugar. And it's like, well, I can prove to you by soil samples that my dog does not digest carrots like he would think. Trust me.
Two follow-ups. First on the alcohol thing is, I find it's a weird thing when you're trying to help people with diet and fitness that alcohol is this third rail, right? Like and think of like all the ways like we've had to qualify. We're not saying alcohol is bad. We're not saying it's bad, and it has its place and stuff like that. We feel a need to say that because I have found as soon as you say to someone, hey, maybe you should just stop drinking, right? I immediately get this like, oh, you're crazy, you're insane, I can't do it. You're saying my life would be terrible, and I think if any substance you say my life would be terrible without that, you might need to look at your relationship to that substance, right? Without saying it's intrinsically bad, right? To say, if indeed you can't imagine your life without a beer in it, then maybe we need to like reimagine our life a little bit. Yeah.
Or a cell phone, right?
Or a cell phone or anything. Yeah. Especially if you realize, and this is my case, like I'm looking at, like I look at alcohol, like I'm not a plus for this, right? It's not doing me good, maybe doing me a lot of harm. If I can't step away from something that I know is doing me harm, that's when I think maybe I should step away from it just to see if I can. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, people who are tuning in, we will do some Q&A as we move along here, but check in, let us know where you're tuning in from and what you have in your cup. If it's beer, that's fine.
So we're cool. We're cool. Right? And another thing on the calories in, calories out, I've done the really strict calorie counting thing and it worked, right? It's hard. I mean, it's hard. And I had to get to where I basically ate the same meals every day, 6 days a week, because I knew exactly what the calorie content what those were. And I could I knew what my number was, had it all planned out. But it was, and if something went sideways and I couldn't get it all put together that day, it was bad, right? Because I didn't quite know how to do things, right? And one of the things I like about whether it's vegan or keto or all these other things where you eliminate certain things, the rules are very easy to follow. It's very easy to follow rules, right? And so I eat basically a ketogenic diet right now, and it says if it's before noon, I don't eat, and if it's got starch in it, I don't eat it, and that's very easy to follow rules, right? And I've never looked at the calorie comparison pre to post keto, but I'm the leanest I've ever been. And the compliance is very easy. And I would suspect if I went vegan, it'd probably be the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because of the rules.
Because the rules, easily followed rules, I think is really key to this sort of thing.
And if you don't mind me, I can't help this, but Lulu Peters wrote in 1915 the first low calorie book.
Yeah,
and I have it over there in my not this library, but the other two libraries, third one's over here.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this book up all the time is she's the one who said the 1,200 calories a day. Having said that, and I defend her because I think you need to. I'm a big fan of defending the pioneers of exercise and diet, Jim. That's something you should know. Because these are people who were, I hate to say it, inventing things. I mean, they maybe they're not perfect, but for God's sakes, they were.
I've spent my career defending the pioneers of philosophy, so I understand.
Yeah. So one of her breakfast items was every day. Well, it was. I'm going to go through her breakfast for you because it was 2 cups of hot water with lemon, 10 minutes of exercise, and then breakfast was other things, but always included 2 eggs cooked in bacon fat, and she considered that 50 calories. So for her. 50 calories was 2 eggs and bacon fat. Now, I mean, nowadays we'd probably say that's more like 250. So when you read some of those early pioneers, what they were saying was this, and what we're hearing in 2021 is a different story.
Very different, yeah.
Because 50 calories, gosh, I don't know. That's half of a bag of 100 calories, that's in, those little those little snack wells that come in 100. If you ate 50 calories, it wouldn't even, the three of us, it would have no impact.
None.
But if you had the 50 calories of eggs after hot water and lemon in bacon fat, plus some other things, we'd all go, that was food. I noticed that. Yeah.
I'm going to pull this comment up just because it's relevant to what we're talking about. And gentle listeners, send in questions because we'll switch to Q&A here in a little bit. But our friend Mustaki says, y'all are great. Love what you're doing. And would love to hear more on calories in, calories out, and weight loss. He's 275 pounds. He's been struggling with my weight my whole life and need to get my head straight about how to beat this. So,
okay, I'm going to ask a couple things. Would you mind sending your age, what you consider a reasonable weight where you'd like to be? Yeah. Would you also just a general ballpark what you do for exercise, and then let me answer after that.
Then we'll jam. Yeah. So I just want to echo what you guys are saying. For me, my diet structure are a few simple rules. I have occasional fasting. And my number one principle is I fluctuate the intensity of my diet like I fluctuate the intensity of my exercise. I think this is something that is greatly overlooked. I think if every day is an extreme dieting day, you're going to fail. You just can't do it, right? So I cycle my durations of my fast. I cycle how much I eat in one day, but the rules are generally the same. I have space between meals, sometimes longer than not. I typically have just a protein shake for at least one of my meals, high quality protein shake, just to make sure I'm hitting protein targets because it's important. When I eat a full meal, I try to always focus on the leafy stuff and the proteins first before moving on to the denser calorie stuff. So like Jim, I mostly avoid, I eat some starches. So I eat like I guess I eat remember Tim Ferriss used to have like the slow carb approach, whatever. Yeah, sure. So when I eat starches, it's stuff like the brown rice, the black beans, sweet potatoes, that sort of thing. Yeah. I don't eat stuff typically, like Dan would say that is, what do you call it, Dan? It's made out of cardboard carbohydrates. Yeah.
Just come on down.
Mm-hmm. So and that's about it, right? So I got to get my protein in. I fast. I have a sort of food ordering. This is Warrior Diet. This is where I got the principle of food ordering from Warrior Diet. Or he would say, hey, start with a big salad every meal. Like that'll fill you up, lots of nutrients. Then move on to your proteins and fats, and then maybe have some fruit, some berries or something like that. And that's something that was genius when I first encountered it because it works. And it's one of those things that I've consistently stuck with. So today, fasting, protein shake, maybe some olives, and then we'll have some meat, veggies, and some berries for dinner. Mm-hmm.
Please go for it, Dan. Yeah.
In my 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment, when the 3 questions come up, question 2 is, do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And of course, I've been working on better questions. 1 is, do you eat like an adult? But the new one I have, and this one seems to really help, and you use this in your work. Have you ever eaten salad for breakfast? And listen to the response back from, are you kidding me? I wouldn't. Breakfast? No. The more offended they are about the question of do you eat salad for breakfast, the more insights I get about how they eat. Mondays and Tuesdays now, Pat, it's an odd thing to say, but I'm now eating salad for breakfast on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah. And the reason is to break this 64-year-old habit, but probably was only just 62-year-old of that. These are breakfast foods, and those foods include pancakes, eggs, cereal, toast, hash. No bacon. No, or whatever. But I'm just saying, salad is a breakfast food. Yeah. Beans and rice can be a breakfast food. I'm trying to break that, and I'm struggling breaking it in my own headspace.
I have salad for breakfast all the time, but it's usually about like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So,
it's when you break your fast. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Our friend Mustaki responded, by the way. Sure. He's 35-year-old. He's a male, 180 pounds. He just started kettlebell lifting. He's doing basics, squats, swings, clean and press, Turkish get up 2 times a week. And he recently started adding in walks per Dan's advice. And last bit of info, he said he temporarily had success with Whole30. He likes the way of eating, but he fell off the wagon easily.
This new book called Just Eat just rips Whole30 apart.
Really?
Whole30 is actually a local. I know them. They're Utahns. And I've never liked the moral slant to the diet, that there's good foods and bad foods and alcohol. When I do Blue Apron, there'll be a little note. It'll say, pair this with certain wines. And it'll say, Whole30 does not recommend alcohol. I'm like, oh, okay. And this gets back to our alcohol discussion. Yeah. I don't want to hear your nonsense. I don't want to hear your, the reason I always joked, when my neighbors here in Utah ask me why I drink, and I say, it's because you drive me crazy.
Because of you.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to say.
I had a teacher who, I feel so bad for her looking back. It was a frequent substitute teacher, and she, for one reason, she just had one eyebrow. And of course, one of the smart aleck kids in class asked one time, "Where's one of your eyebrows?" And she says, "It fell off because of kids like you."
I'm going to use that.
Like touche, like great response, DJ. Anyway,
the listener who sent in the question about weight loss, and we can get into maybe the more specifics, but mentioned struggling. Okay, I've been struggling, and I tried Whole30 for a while, it didn't work. I suspect that was not the first one, right? That you tried and didn't work. Okay, and this stems from a conversation Pat and I had offline a while back that I thought, God, we kind of moved each other on a little bit. And I don't know if you guys have heard of a famous experiment in behavioral psychology that called the rat park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Secrets of NEM comes from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, the experimenter, and I know that it's an old one, there's controversy about it, but let's just go with it. Right. He exposed rats to opiates. I think it was morphine. Okay. So, and he had one group of rats that had, opiate laced water, and they were just in a bland cage. They were fed like pellets for their diet, and that was it. And that group of rats almost universally got addicted to and died, okay, to the opiate laced water. Then he had another group of rats that he had, they had opiate water available, and both groups of rats had opiate water available and just plain water available. And then the second group of rats, they had treadmills, they had to hunt for their food, through a maze. They had dates with lady rats available for them, all of this, and they almost didn't touch the opiate laced water. Okay. And if they did, they would have a sip and they move on. It wasn't a big deal to them. Okay. So what I'm getting at here is it seems that has something to do with addiction, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, whatever, with where you're getting your serotonin, dopamine rewards in your life. Okay. And so I am all for discipline is freedom. I'm all for willpower. Okay. But it's a mystery why some people can pull it off and some people can't. Right. And,
right.
I'll just using maybe something too personal, but when I was in my early 30s, I just decided not to be fat anymore. Okay. Lost 100 pounds and have kept it off for 16 years. Okay. Why? Well, I had a great marriage. I have children. I have people in my life who love me. Right. I don't need food to keep a good serotonin dopamine cycle going. Okay. And I'm not a therapist. Okay. But I think
but
anyone
you can pretend to be one on the podcast. That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But I do play one on TV. Right. Okay. I do think anytime you've got this kind of cycle, I just cannot comply with this. I cannot comply with this, whether it's for food, alcohol, what have you. You've got to look at why you are not choosing to live in Rat Park, right? Mm-hmm. If indeed it's available to you. Like, why is it the things in your life that could be real bread, right, are not what you spend your wages on, when there are and you keep wasting those other things, right? And so I think in general, in fitness and in training and all this, we have to it's not like manly to say like maybe you're not loved enough in your life and that's why you're having a hard time here. But I think this is probably a huge factor for a lot of people. Like, why are we self-destructively overeating? Those of us who know better, right? Mm-hmm. Those who want to do better. And I think when that's the case, you've got to, I think, start asking these questions for yourself. And I know for me, in overcoming being obese, that was a big factor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing that that fascinates me about all that, and just encountering many high-level performers that you would say that is a really self-disciplined person, that's somebody who has amazing willpower, is you often don't get the full landscape, right? Yeah. Like you have the example of somebody who is a ultra performer in one area of their life, say just like a billionaire, right? But then they cannot lose weight. Right. Yeah. Or they cannot overcome some other, like they have incredible willpower and discipline here, but almost none or zero over there. And shoot, man, like that's something that I've had in my life. Like you, Jim, like there was a point like high school, I've told Dan this story where like there was like the negative element that made me decide I don't want to be fat anymore. Like being the chubby kid of my friends. Where I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm through with it. And it took me a while to figure it out. Of course, I had struggles, 2 steps forward, like 3 steps back, a couple more steps forward, so it wasn't a straight line by any means. But for the most part, like once I had set that intention, I was able to really kind of just get to where I wanted to be. And for the most part, stay there. And so like if somebody looked at me at just that one aspect of my life, they'd say, oh wow, he must have a lot of discipline. But it wasn't, but I didn't have this. I didn't have discipline. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Else changed. Something else changed.
I was not a disciplined person before that, like in any area of my life. I mean, well, I wasn't in music. I don't want to say that, like in music and certain things, but overall, I would say I was a generally undisciplined, lazy person. So yeah, something else changed. I don't even know exactly what it is, but yeah, Dad, I'd be curious to have your thoughts on all this.
Well, and getting back to our listener, I mean, our listener wants to lose. If I got this right, was it 105 pounds? Is it right? Did I get that?
He says he wants to get to 180, and currently he's at 275.
So 95. Okay. Yeah, I like what you've all said. The thing I would basically say, anytime someone is in, I'm hoping that we have some medical intervention here. Yeah. I would call up a good doctor immediately and just sit down and say, and of course it's going to be the blood test, it's going to be the heart, but it's also the medical support that you want. I mean, there are going to be some. I mean, and I'm not a drug pusher at all, and anybody who knows my work knows this is true. But when it comes to obesity, if or being overweight, if you can get yourself on, and it's not a lifetime thing, but if you can get yourself on some medicines that will help trend you down, boy, that's win-win. And then after that, I would like to see our listener. I hope they're not just walking 2 days a week. I just posted an article in this week's Wandering Weights. I don't agree with it, but I thought it was important that this Hollywood guru weight loss person, he expects his people to do 12,000 steps a day, 3 meals of 400 calories, and 2 snacks of 200 calories. Well, do the math.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And by doing those 2 things, then you lift in the weight room a couple days a week.
Well, guys lost weight in the Bataan Death March too, right?
I had an uncle on that. Yes, my Uncle Robert. God bless him. So the idea, though, is that something as simple as some dietary changes. I'm a big fan of fasting and vegetables. Okay, well, what a shock. But then the walking is just going to have to be I hate to say walking is magic or anything, but it kind of is. And one thing that I'd like our listener to also think about is at 275, 125K, as the weight gets down to 260, I do think it would be time to start adding load, because they're going to get this great benefit from 275 just walking to 260 to 250. The walking is going to be great, but then pretty soon walking becomes too efficient because you're losing weight. So I'm starting to recommend to people that when you use walking as a fat loss supplement, to start to load it, and it can be really simply done with a school backpack. And honestly, my Count of Monte Cristo over there and The Godfather would be enough for the first week. Yeah. You could add Beau Geste after that. I have a thick Bible you can add. You could add a thick Quran. You could add Edna O'Brien's The Love Object there. You can put bricks in there. It doesn't matter. I like to put weights in my feet and my hands, but that's me.
Right. Yeah. One more thing about fasting. First off, fasting will work in part because it reduces calories. Nobody denies that. But it has become something of a pet peeve of mine when people who say they're just following the science claim that fasting only works because it reduces calories. And I think that's one, far too simplistic, and it's not actually in line with a lot of the evidence that we have. In fact, there was a study published in Cell Metabolism not too long ago, which found that irrespective of weight loss, fasting has benefits that are definitely worthwhile, right? Metabolic benefits, cellular benefits, whatever, right? But there's also the psychological aspect of fasting, which I think, and Jim, I'd be curious to get your thoughts, and Dan too, on, I think of it as like hunger resistance training. Like, I just don't think most people in our culture know how to be hungry. Like they don't know what to do in a state of hunger, and they freak out. Fasting gets you okay and eventually comfortable with just being hungry. And there's something about that I think is massively underexplored.
The Mark Sisson's new book, 2 Meals a Day, I think Pat and I are going to do an episode on it at some point here, is really, really good on the science, at least, the science he's reading, right? Of why fasting is more than just fewer calories. Like it's doing more for you than just making you eat less, that there's great metabolic benefits from it. And it's switching you to have to live on fat, like burn body fat and all that. Right. But I now really like the feeling of being slightly hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And I do think there is something to that business, that when you're hungry, you are in the hunter killer mode a little bit here, right? You're pretty alert. You're out looking for prey, right? I find, man, I have my best jujitsu when I'm in the middle of a fast, right? And also, this is something from one of Jocko's books, where when he talks about, he's a paleo keto guy, and you go out with your friends and there's nothing on the menu you can do. And he just says, well, you know what? You don't have to eat.
He just sits there.
You just don't have to eat. Yeah. Get a cup of coffee. Right. And I have found, though, in that passing a meal up thing, there's a real sense of accomplishment there. Like, I just did that. I could have eaten. I'm a little hungry, but I didn't. And I pulled the trigger and just moved on. And now, like, Pat and I talked about this, that getting small victories you can win, flipping yourself from a loser passive mentality to a winner active proactive mentality, that's really big. And a lot of times, like, I'll get that sense of accomplishment just because I passed something up I could have done. I was a little harder than I had to be. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then it gets you good psychological momentum going. Yeah.
Dan, you do a lot of fasted training yourself, right?
Oh, that's all I train now. That's the only way I train now. So you guys mentioned the 2 meals a day. I got Mike O'Donnell's book, and that was in probably 2008 on 2 meals. And that was the first book I'd ever read that really did a nice job explaining intermittent fasting and with the points you guys have made.
Yeah.
Again, gentle listener, there's nothing new about the 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
When you look at what the Mediterranean diet really is, and if you go into some of the Blue Zone studies, you'll find out that basically it's kind of 1 meal a day.
Yep.
You make dinner, and then sometime the next day you eat the leftovers, and then you eat dinner, and sometime the next day you eat the leftovers. And if you make those dinners, pretty good, you're not going to have any of these conversations. Yeah.
Sisson actually said on the Joe Rogan podcast that, I only called it 2 meals a day because no one would buy 1 meal a day. Right? No one's going to go in for that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of days, I'll end up eating only once. I'll go full 24 hours because I just didn't really get that hungry, and I was busy and didn't have time to sit down and make my eggs and cut up an avocado or something.
Yeah.
Shall we tend to some questions, gentlemen?
Sure.
All right. Chris says, perfect background chat for my workout. Cheers, Chris. Appreciate it. Gorist Fump says, I'm doing single kettlebell OHP, overhead press. Right. Yeah. Weighted pull-ups and a rite of passage ladder style 1, 2, 3. Straight sets of swings and goblet squats to finish by walking 3 times a day per week. He wants to know, what am I missing?
No. He's doing this workout 3 days per week.
I see. Okay. My bad. Mm-hmm.
What is he missing? Nothing.
Maybe walk every day, but
I was going to just say, no, that's I kind of like. In fact, that looks a heck of a lot like what I did in 10, and that one only had a 28 kilo kettlebell.
Yep.
That's basically what my workouts were.
Yeah. Hey, real quick,
I was crippled, but
you work with what you have, right, Dan? Gentle listeners, do us a favor. If you're tuning in, hit like, subscribe, share, and start giving us some questions because we're switching over to Q&A now.
Yeah,
sweet. Lonnie says
can
he's
I
in
just
South.
say one thing?
Yeah,
Anytime someone has a program like that where they're doing press and pull up, goblet squat and swing, I mean, and then follow with the walk, you're nailing it. Your job now is to just make sure. Obviously throw in some variation, but you don't need to. Just try to just keep linking those weeks, those months to boom, boom, just keep doing it,
Dan, did you ever write up the program you did with the 28 kilogram anywhere?
Yeah, it's on my website, the danjohn.net, Coyote Point Kettlebell. It's a 50-page PDF.
Perfect. We'll link
Excellent.
that in
Great.
the show notes. Jose wants to know the question for you, Dan. When you're training for the snatch test, do you prefer barefoot or light shoes?
Well, when I'm at the cert, basically I'm barefoot the whole time, depending on where we're at. If it's, there's certain places I won't go barefoot, wisely. I'd rather walk on glass than some of the stuff I've seen in gyms, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
100%.
Gym bathrooms in some places. But we're kind of a minimalist shoe still. I've never been a fan of those soft joggers, but yeah. So the question is training or testing. If I'm testing, I might require you to be barefoot, because a lot of people, when they have spongy shoes, don't finish the snatch. They don't finish the swing. And that's a technical issue, Jose. Training, it depends again. Like today, it's snowing here in Salt Lake Valley because I got sunburned the other day. So by law, it has to snow.
It has to bounce back. Yeah.
So today would not be a day it would have you barefoot on the grass. I'm not saying, Jose, it depends. If your technique is locked on and you have a good pair of shoes, those Converse All-Stars are still probably the best kettlebell shoes. They're very, at least they were very inexpensive, and they're flat and they don't sponge you. For those of you who don't do a lot of kettlebell work, it's like if you're doing the Olympic lift with spongy shoes. I've blown through shoes. I've actually ripped the bottoms off of kind of jogging shoes, dicking around in the weight room. I shouldn't have been using them, because the amount of load when you put my body weight with the barbell on those shoes, and that poor little 12-year-old girl who's, I'll stop right there. I don't want to make a moral judgment about a certain company and who they hire to make shoes. But you'll rip them right off. The bottoms will come off. The sponge will stick to the ground, and it's dangerous to lift. I think that's why I like my lifting boots, or I have a pair of shoes that are real hard.
Yeah. I do most of my stuff in Vibrams, and and if I wear a pair of like New Balance running shoes or something to do snatches, I feel like an unstable mess. Like I feel like those things are wobbly, and it could just be, because I'm not used to the heel height. But I would rather be barefoot, definitely, yeah, or a good pair of like squatting or lifting shoes. Yeah.
And if I can just follow with Jose, when I'm getting ready for an Olympic lifting meet, I tend to train in flats or even barefoot as long as I can, and towards the end, I come in and start putting my boots on, so that I'm actually. It's easier for me to lift with boots on,
right,
without. But that's just one of the things I do to prepare myself for competition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Very good. Next one. How much weight or how many books do you recommend for a backpack, Dan? Or anybody?
Well, it's going to be pretty simple. And Adrian, it'd be nice to know your body weight on this, but here's the idea behind it. If I'm working with you and you're 350, and if you're in the mid 300s, you're going to see a dentist, eye doctor, medical doctor. You're going to be on some new pills. I can almost guarantee it. When you go from 350 to say 330, that you are going to notice that the walks get easier. Now, you still might sweat a lot, but they will. So let's just say I don't believe in going over 35 pounds for a backpack. That's just the tradition from the Roman legions. Once I've noticed, when we get over 20 pounds in backpacks, that's 10 kilos, 20 kilos is too much, 10 kilos, 15 kilos. It just gets sloppy. And so once you, let's just say this, let's just make a magic number.
Sure.
Don't go over 20 pounds in a backpack. When you get, and it's still inefficient, put in hand weights first. If that's too easy, go heavier, and then go to ankle weights. So backpack up to 20, hand weights, and then ankle weights. And then that way, it's what you're looking for is the inefficiency, not the load. So, if you're carrying your child in your arms and you're walking your dog with the other hand, you you have an inefficient walk. You're doing exactly what we need.
Perfect.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Next one.
Imagine like just carrying a mace or something, just you have to switch hands a lot and you're going to different positions. Yeah. Much like an infantryman carrying a rifle. Right.
Bill McGrath wants to know, he says this, he's thinking of using Easy Strength as a basis for off-season training for my high school basketball team. He wants to know, are there any modifications I should utilize because I'll only have 3 days a week to train them? Dan, this one's definitely for you. Yeah.
Bill McGrath, of course, a famous Occidental shot put discus thrower, first person to ever do the rotation technique at the Nationals. So,
good to have a famous person on. Yep. Yeah. Good to see you.
Very famous young man we have here. First off, God, you work with high school basketball? Jeez. Would he just trying to go straight to heaven when you die? Did I say that all out loud? I'm sorry. 3 days a week, Easy Strength, high school kids. Why don't you just do a standard program? They just need traditional weightlifting. Yeah. What you're not going to get them to do is what they need. And of course, that would be hinge and squat and loaded carries. Yep. Whenever I work with basketball players, they all think they're training for the Olympia. It's all curls and lat pull downs, and I don't want to do any presses because that'll hurt my shot. And it'll be like, Billy, don't worry about your shot. You ain't going anywhere with it. Yeah. But I would just say push, a pull, a squat in that 3 sets of 8, 5 sets of 5, 5 sets of 3 range. Hinges is appropriate. I would do rack deadlifts with basketball players, trap bar deadlifts, and then suitcase carries, and maybe bear hug carries. Try to get loads because one of the things I usually, when I deal with basketball players, they don't tend to have a lot of that. Whenever I play basketball with them, they keep saying this word to me, and I don't know what it means. It's foul or something like that, because as they go up, I put my elbow into their ribs, and then
into their neck is even better. I found.
Yeah, it seems to remove all that is good in sport, really.
Yes. So I would say push, pull, squat, that 15 to 30 rep range. Hinge is appropriate. Bear hug carries, suitcase carries.
Beautiful. Good luck to you, Bill.
An absolute no-brainer 3-day a week basic lifting program. K Black's Operator from the original Tactical Barbell. You're going to do 3 lifts 3 times a week, 3 to 5 sets ranging from 5s to singles on a periodized schedule. It'd be easy spreadsheet for all your guys. Yeah.
I still haven't read that book. In fact, I'm kind of slacking on my fitness reads. I seem to only read the only new fitness books that I ever read are when Dan John puts out a new one.
Yeah.
Well, that's and Jim, that's why I like Wendler's 531 for high school.
531. Yeah. 531 would be very easy too. Easy spreadsheet that you can just have for everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
2 days a week, and then a third day of doing the other stuff. I mean, that's I don't think this is a good idea for basketball, but his bigger but boring program 2 days a week, and then the other workout being the loaded carry, tumbling, kettlebell stuff. But that's more into a football. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me just say 2 quick things by way of announcement. First, thanks for all the great questions. Everyone, keep sending them in, and we'll keep fielding as many as we can for our remaining time. Secondly, I've had a number of people ask for extended show notes of markers of when we talk about certain topics, if I could put that in. And the short answer is I can't. I don't have the time for that. However, I want to say
staff.
And I'm not hiring somebody to do that job. But if somebody is interested in doing that, I can hook you up with a Strong On membership, a Generalist University membership. So if somebody wants to write the show notes for these conversations, if you watch them, and I would
make sure you got the whole Dan John collection.
Yeah. So if somebody wants the hookup in exchange for doing a nice detailed show notes and marking the parts in the conversation that we could put in YouTubes and elsewhere, I just want to throw that out there. Email me at patflynn@chroniclesofstrength.com. You don't have to send a full resume, but I will expect you to be committed to this. This is what you want to do, and we'll hook you up with all that.
Autographed copy of Ageless Athlete.
Yeah, I'll send you a Dan John DVD. I'll send you 2 Dan John DVDs, one of my books and some other stuff. So we'll give you a solid hookup if you want to do that moving forward. So I'm just putting that out there. Okay, here's the next question. This is a common one. What would our advice be on pull-up progressions for someone who cannot yet do even one? So I'll say a few things about this, Jim. This ties into our conversation yesterday, Dan. We talked a little bit about, I guess we criticized a little bit the idea of people who only do eccentric reps, right? However, we did say that if you're working towards certain progressions on calisthenic exercises, eccentric reps can be helpful there, right? So it all depends where you're at, right? So if like you can already do a flexed arm hang, then I think most of your work should be stuff that really registers your own body weight at that point. Flexed arm hangs, isometrics, eccentrics, partial reps, just practicing, not doing workouts, but just set time 3 days a week. I'm going to just practice hanging from a bar, holding positions, partial reps, slowly lowering, 3 days a week, 15 to 20 minutes. Don't, kill yourself. Just feel like you got some good practice in. And then eventually, you lower yourself down a little bit more. This is exactly what I did in high school, right? I had my little pull-up bar in my bedroom. I just did these static holds. I would lower myself down a little bit, try and pull myself back up over time, lower myself down more, try and pull myself back up. And it's just really a matter of just dedicated practice time. And then some auxiliary exercises can be helpful. Like if you know where you're weak. So the problem with bands, people sometimes hop right to bands. The problem with bands is they can sometimes help people where they don't need to be helped, and they don't help people where they do need to be helped.
I always felt like bands power me through the sticking points.
Yeah. So but sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes bands will give you what you need, but sometimes they don't. So they're just kind of superfluous. So that's going to depend on the person whether or not you should use bands. So that and then lose weight, obviously, like being lighter will help you with pull-ups. So that's my general strategy for approaching it, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
I read an article by Joe DeFranco once where he said that he could predict his athletes' body fat percentage by their 40-yard dash time and their pull-ups.
Yeah.
And it got to the point that he didn't even check body fat percentage anymore. Just like, look, we'll know if you're lean enough if you can do pull-ups, right? And once again, I don't want to, pressure anybody in this, but I think your best developer for the pull-up, just to get one, will be to lose that weight and work through the progressions that Pat's talking about, right?
So when I do that post deployment stuff, we do the month where week 1 you hang once 3 times a week. Week 2 you hang twice 3 times a week. Week 3 3 times. Week 4 straight arm hang the first month, and then the second month is flexed hang, and you go and you really do try to raise your time up. One of the reasons I push that so much with these, with these guys who are off deployments and stuff, is simply to get them away from doing all those pull-ups, because they do them. They love pull-ups. Pull-ups answer, before you can have dinner, you got to do 10 pull-ups. Before you have breakfast, and that's great, except downstream the elbows go. Yeah. So I'm a big fan. Just to toss in one more thing, I'm a big fan of just simply hanging for time and flex hanging for time, and the body figures the middle up. One of the interesting things I've seen in my career is if I can get someone to do rack walks and then waiter walks, their kettlebell press goes up. Yeah. And I think sometimes what a lot of people don't have is just simply the time under the bar. Yeah. My squat went up naturally when I started squatting deep, and the same squat a couple times a week, same patterning, just got the reps in, and magically my squat went up.
Specificity. Yeah, it's a magical thing. Conrad says he's working on the overhead press. He wants to get to half body weight kettlebell press, but he can't escape a sticking point. Should he incorporate isometric press as a supplemental exercise? Will that be better than just more easy strength?
Boy, I'd like to see a video on where the sticking point is, just to see. Because if can they see me? Can they see me?
People who are watching can see you on the podcast. Dan's got his elbow at about 90.
No, but see how my elbow is not underneath my wrist.
Yeah,
a lot of people's sticking points. I got it's opposite, so it's hard for me to figure this out. So as you press, you're not. So when I work with most people, that's weird. They bench press for the first time and they put their hands on where the knurling ends. And then, of course, they then put on 75 pounds of mass, but still have their hands on that. Basically, tricep press position.
Yeah.
And miraculously, I make them better in the bench press by widening their grip out so that there's a pillar. The elbow is underneath the wrist.
Yeah.
The elbow is underneath the wrist and the whole shit. I don't know how to do this. The elbow is underneath the wrist the whole time. So I'd like to see a video. Number 2, and it's going to sound strange, but there is, if you're doing kettlebells, there is this silly little drill you can do. So you put in a bell, like if say like you're getting stuck at the 36, you'd put a 20 in your hand, you'd put a rope. It takes about 20 minutes to figure out how to do it, but you connect a rope to a lighter bell at your sticking point. So as you press the bell up, when you hit your sticking point, that 8 kilo bell comes up off the floor. So you're pressing a 20 into a 28.
It's the whole idea of chains and the West Side barbell stuff.
Chain. It's the same thing. Yeah. But what the nice thing about kettlebells is you can just hook 2 ropes up. It's just a little. But here's why that it works. Here's why I think it works. Is the second that rope engages, I have to move my arm here. Most people are pressing like this. When the rope kicks in, they get themselves in the rope. That little 8 kilo weight that's on the ground, the rope forces them to line everything back up. Yeah. Almost universally, it's alignment.
Dan, I'd like to hear your thought on this as a strategy. Let's say you've got someone who's getting stuffed at a sticking point with a 40 kg, and they're primarily training with a 32 kg, where there's no sticking point. They can just fly through that. Would the interim bell be helpful there, where you've got a bell that makes you work through that sticking point? It's that there's just too much. There's too big a jump. I think this comes up in kettlebells a lot. There's too big a jump from the standard 32 to the 40, and it might be that you could work through that sticking point if you had what
36.
Would be a 36. Yeah,
36. I've got double 36s here. It's funny to say that because generally I tell people I wish there was only the original 3 still, the 16, the 24, and the 32, because if you couldn't press the 32, it was real obvious to everybody that you needed to do bottoms up with the 16 and had to work the 24 harder. But once they started bringing all those, so Jim, I agree with you 100%. But at the same time, this is where things get maddening with the kettlebell world.
No, the split, like I like that too. Like, just gonna have to get more out of less. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think we would admit there is a threshold where it makes sense to have an intermediary. Like if the only kettlebells we had were a 6 kilogram and a 40 kilogram.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Like, okay, now it seems acceptable to maybe have something in between there. Right. But I think what we focus on, Dan, is like the original set was actually a really good spread. Right.
It was a good spread. Yeah.
Like it was a really good spread. So I guess the question then is like, is the 32 to the 40, is that beyond what we would call a really good or reasonable spread that actually makes sense to maybe have a 36 in there?
But if that's all you have,
right?
It's what you have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you're just like there was no such thing as the interim bell, you'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, because now we have kettlebells that like it seems like they go up by like 0.5 pound increments, right? And it's like now we're just getting silly, right? And the problem with that is it allows you to focus only on one training variable, which is intensity, rather than being creative and intelligent about how am I going to manage duration and frequency and time under tension and all the other stuff you should be paying attention to in your training, right?
One thing we find at the certs is that I know they can't.
I'll describe it.
We do that where you take two. You have too heavy of a kettlebell to press. And you do that kind of a shrugging, toss, double arm press, and you bring it down.
Yeah.
But again, universally, guess why that drill works? Is because the elbow goes into the right place.
Alignment. Yeah. And the key is vertical forearm throughout the press. That's what we're looking for.
Skill wins.
Great. Carrie. Hello, Carrie. How are you? Says, good morning. I've been doing strong on the pat for several years. Hey, cheers. Do most challenges follow the daily workouts around 4 times a week? 56 years old and going strong. Yeah. Cheers. To Carrie. Awesome. Curious. Do you feel fasting is as successful for women, hormones, menopause, all that? Over the last year, my body is really achy in the AM. Am I overdoing kettlebells? So let me say, sorry, Danny, if you want to go first, go ahead.
No, I'm going to pull up a place for her to go read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cause she actually addresses a point that actually comes up quite a bit. So how can I post this?
You could probably drop it right in the comments. I don't know if you see a comment box there, Dan.
You guys talk.
Yeah, let me say a few things about this. One is we do have research to show that fasting does work for women. However, women and men are different, but also people are different at different times of their lives as well. So one thing that I've really come to appreciate as I've designed protocols, including fasting, well, here's the general rule. Fasting, like exercise, can either be a eustress or a distress, depending how you apply it. And that's the key. So in the same sense, if you're, whether you're male or female, or you're just incredibly stressed by other factors in your life, or you're a certain age, how you apply something, the amount you apply, that depends on who you are and the life circumstances are going around. But probably most of the time, like very much most of the time, there is some amount of fasting and some amount of exercising that is going to benefit you. And then the key is understanding or trying to figure out what is that amount, what is that dosage that's going to benefit me, so that it's a eustress, it's a positive stress rather than a distress. Fasting doesn't have to be long, right? It can be short. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be a couple days a week. So, before I say somebody should stop fasting completely, I would say, in the same sense, I wouldn't tell somebody to stop exercising completely. I would say, well, let's think about the intensity and the duration and try and find more of the sweet spot here. Because I'm quite convinced, not just from the research, but experience, is that fasting can benefit everybody, but how you fast really matters and makes a difference, whether it's going to be a positive stress or a negative stress. And to me, that's no different in principle than exercise. And just like people can overdo exercise or apply exercise inappropriately, same thing with fasting. And I think that's where in a lot of my programs, Carrie, as you'll see, I now just give ranges. So, and allow for auto regulation. Like, here's a range of, even with Strong On, I'm like, okay, we have something every day, but you don't have to do something every day. Fasting, here's some ranges of days you could fast per week and times you could fast for. And it allows for boundaries, for clarity, but also auto regulation, self-adjustment, common sense, all that sort of thing. Yeah. Dan, did you find the link?
Yeah, and Carrie, I tried to post it to you, but
I found it. I'm putting it in the comments now, in the public.
Oh, why does it not go in my comments?
Yeah, so with the software I have, Dan, there's a private chat between us in case we want to gossip about any of these people, and then there's the public chat. So you just put in the private chat, but don't worry, I translated it over. It's in the public chat now.
So Carrie, I posted. It's from one of the few places I go to a lot online. It's called inverse.com, and it's called Longevity Hacks. And what I like about it is they talk about intermittent fasting a lot. And this last week, Carrie, I think her name was, Carrie, they talk a lot about, is intermittent fasting, a male-female thing? And I don't have the expertise to talk about the hormones or anything. I'm almost I don't know of a world religion that doesn't have fasting at some level. I don't know. Again, our discussion coming back to fasting, even if you just learn, Carrie, to deal with hunger as an urge, and you can be its master, Genesis chapter 4, you can just that. Now, on the hormones and menopausal things, that's out of my pay grade. My friend Sarah Smith might be able to help you, but that's, I don't.
My wife is, in that stage, right? And she fasts. She's a 1 or 2 meal person a day. She's made it work for herself very, very well, right? I won't go into how she does it because I think it's a lot of trial and error how she figured it out. This is Pat's point, right? And I think for anybody with fasting, though, don't jump in the deep end of the pool. You've got to ease into this. If you've been living the standard American lifestyle for 50 years, you're not going to make a decision today and switch it. You've got to ease into it. And also, just in terms of references, Sisson has in the new book a section on particularly like fasting issues and how to do it for women, especially in that later in life stage too.
So you're recommending this book?
Yeah, I like the book a lot. Yeah, I do.
All right, I will purchase it as soon as.
Okay, all right, gentlemen. Wow, time flies. So let's do our usual wrap up here. Gentle listeners, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Rank the show if you're on iTunes. We really deeply appreciate it. And Dan, what's coming down the pipeline at Dan John University? What are you working on?
We have a new course going to be coming out pretty soon on goal setting, and it's not and please don't think, gentle listener, it's about, it's a discussion about goal setting. It's my caveats about goal setting. It's my make sure we all talking about the same thing. And my favorite tool, which I think we've discussed on before, is the 5-2 assignment, where you talk about what you can do in 2 decades, 2 years, 2 weeks, today, and tomorrow.
Like that.
And I'm a big believer that it's great to have decades. At the birth of Leo, when he gets his driver's license, I'll be 80. So that radically changed the last few weeks for me. So, so 2 decades for me. I don't have many family members who are in their 80s.
Yeah.
So that's
There's a goal. There's a goal. Yeah.
Different.
Dan, I like that you bring it all the way down to today for your goals. Because I don't like goals that don't translate into something actionable on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, on the back of my computer here is my daily pirate map. And the pirate map starts off, my today started off last night when I made my to-do list for this morning, and I made the coffee. Yeah. So that when I woke up this morning, I pressed the button. I didn't have it on automatic timer, but I just pressed the button, and because it was already ready to go. Yeah. I started my day off successfully. Yeah. And if I just keep making each and every day another brick, and pretty soon we're going to have a great wall.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, like I can make it a goal, to deadlift 600 pounds, but I actually have no control whether that happens. But I can get my hands around that bar today, right? That I can do.
It's rule number 3 in my coaching 101. You just focus on the process. Focus on the process. The results take care of themselves. Yeah. Like, I made certain goals in my midlife, and I was shocked how much easier they were to achieve once I stopped. Like you said, it wasn't a 600-pound deadlift I cared about. It was the fact that I started focusing on the process, and all of a sudden these magical things started to happen.
Like, let's say you don't get to the 600-pound deadlift. That doesn't mean you're a failure. It might be your genetics voted otherwise. Okay. Yeah. Or it might mean you got hurt, or your wife left you with the kids, whatever. Okay. But so I can't control whether I get to the big goal. You should have it, but I can't control that I get there. What I can control with is what I do at 10 o'clock today when I go work out. Today,
tomorrow. And then 2 weeks is the first kind of check-in. Yeah. Like if I say I want to get my I want to get a doctorate study.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to call up University of Indiana today, and I don't. Yeah. 2 weeks from now, I have to sit down and say, that is not truly a goal, because I'm not doing it. Yep. It's that other kind of thing. It's a wish or fish or whatever, Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Dan, John, Jim Madden, thank you guys both very much.
And I like this new system.
Yeah, it's sweet, isn't it?
And Carrie, if you have questions on